Hello gang, welcome back to the office. Hey look, a lot of you over the years have asked me, what camera were you using when you shot this? How did you get that shot? How do you put all this stuff together? So I decided, it's about time that I just showed you what the hell is in my camera bag. Here we go. Now, as you know, this is not a hobby for me. A friend of mine used to say that all the time. It's not a hobby. Pissed me off every time he said it, but I find myself saying it every now and then. So no, using cameras and stuff is not a hobby for me. This is what I do for a living, right? Only I'm generally just directing the person who's doing it, but obviously I've learned a lot over the years that I've been doing this. And I was an editor way before I was a director. So I know how to shoot things in order to tell the story, and then I know how to sit down and edit and put it all together. It's just kind of what I do. So when I was deciding to start doing this, I kind of looked at all the vlogging websites and what's the best camera for this and that and what have you. I keep hitting this every time. I kept trying this camera and that camera. Finally, I've kind of come upon a combination of cameras. Yes, cameras, you need more than one if you're actually going to do something like this and run a YouTube channel like this, with adventures at least, that have just kind of worked really, really well for me. So, first of all, let's look in the camera bag. Well, let's talk about the bag. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my GoPro 10, which is my workhorse. I'm telling you, probably 70% of the footage you see on my videos are from this camera. The 10 nowadays also has a screen in front of it. Here, I'll go up to you like that. See? So when you're actually looking at yourself, you can actually see yourself too. And I have my GoPro 10 on this fabulous thing. It's called a SMATREE. I'll have everything linked below, by the way. I also have a Amazon storefront thingy now. I don't know. Some young kid set it up for me. So you can go and look at all the equipment that I tell you about here and then buy it yourself if you want to. That's fine. So anyway, I put it on this SMATREE because I can make it nice and long like this. So if I'm swimming or what have you, and then I can easily turn it around and look at me. Now check this out. Look how smooth this is too with this GoPro 10. It's so smooth, and with this stick, I can just walk around back like this. Here, let me just walk around the office a little bit. Coming this way, you can see how smooth it is. Oh, here, I'll go out in the hallway, come around here, just like that. So it's a wonderful little tool, and it works extremely well. And you can see yourself, so you can frame the shot properly. So it's all good. And then you can just turn it around that way and shoot the other direction. And then it collapses, obviously, if you need to get small. So anyway, the SMATREE GoPro 10, I'm telling you, huge asset in your camera bag. The other thing about the GoPro 10 that I use a lot, you've seen a lot of slow-mo especially in the BVI with water. Slow-mo is always pretty, right? Dolphins jumping out, slow-mo's pretty, right? So generally during the day, I will run this sucker at 120 frames per second. That means there are 120 frames going through the shutter there as it's, taking in the footage. So you need a lot of light to do that. So sunlight is the best time to do that. And then you can slow it down all the way down to 24 frames or whatever you want. And it's beautiful, smooth, slow motion. If you shoot everything at 24 frames or 30 frames and try to slow a moment, it's going to look a little cruddy. It's going to look a little jittery, right? So you always want to have as many frames going through there as possible. So during the day, I always have this sucker on 120 frames. At night, I take it back down to 30 or 24 frames because you need more light. So if you go slower and you have less light, you can see more. I hope that makes sense. So if you're going to have a camera bag, right, the first thing you need is the camera bag. So I have this gorgeous thing. It's called a Think Tank. Highly recommend this sucker. It is gorgeous. It's a little larger than a backpack, so you can roll it around. It's got rollers, just like a carry-on. And you open this sucker up. I put my laptop and my iPad in here, so it's gorgeous. I have my, whoops, here, there you go. My passport, and oh, you need this to sleep on the plane, right? That's in there. So all my personal belongings are in here. You flip it open, some souvenir from Ireland. I've got all my cards in there. I've got more propellers for my drone, all in there. So it's a lot just in this opening. So let me fold that open. So here it is, all my cameras. Now look, my camera bag is like my personality, a little organized, creative chaos, just the way it is. So don't any of you people who are really into cameras say, oh my God, I can't believe your camera bag's that messy. Messy is good when you're being creative, okay? At least that's what I tell myself. Okay, so the first thing you gotta have in your camera bag, a pair of socks apparently. I use those on the plane. Anyway, yes, I have Ziploc bags, and this one are all my GoPro crap, my charger, GoPro charger, accessories I may need for GoPros. Everything I need my GoPro is right here. So I know I could afford better, but I like Ziploc bags. The other Ziploc bags is my batteries. I have a ton of batteries in here, constantly changing batteries. So there's a ton of batteries. So a philosophy in shooting a YouTube video, I mean, this is the simplest way I could say it. You need a big camera, you need a medium-sized camera, and you need a tiny camera. The GoPro is my tiny camera, right? You need a big camera because, let's say, there's no zoom on this. There is a zoom, but don't use it. Just keep it wide. If you're standing at the top of the boat or standing on the beach or something and you see a turtle swimming over there and you can't get it with the GoPro because it's way over there, you need a lens to get there, right? So you need a big camera. This is my big, if I can get it out, this is my big camera. This is a Panasonic Lumix GH5. I love this camera. It's got a 12 to 60 zoom on it, which is not that big, but I don't really need anything that big. And it's just got a beautiful image to it. I know there are a lot newer ones out there that are a lot better. There are a lot of Sonys out there that are really good. I've just this is like my old friend, and I know how to use it and I know how to make it look really good. So I just continue using it. So again, it's a Panasonic Lumix GH5. And another thing with this, it takes great stills. So I use it for stills and video, but primarily video when I really want to zoom into something and look at it. So you see some images here that I take from it, a lot on the boat, and you see they're tighter close-up shots, right? And you'll see that it also does slow-mo because I generally run it at around 60 frames a second, and that allows me to slow-mo it a little bit. So this particular camera is a little tricky with the focus. It can get out of focus if you don't watch it, so you have to really kind of get, but I've kind of learned its nuances, so I know how to operate it. You know, cameras are like, you know, like kids or boyfriends and girlfriends. You just got to figure them out, and then once you figure them out, you're good. You know what I mean? Not that I'm ever going to figure out my kids, but you know what I mean. So now a medium camera. Why do we need a middle medium camera? Well, for example, this camera that's shooting me right now is what I would call a medium camera. It's a Sony ZV-1. Now look, the great thing about this sucker is, I'm over here, I'm just using the GoPro to show you this. The great thing about this sucker is that the focus on this thing is dead on. You will always be in focus. Look how I'm this close and see how I'm in focus. And then when I move way back here, I'm in focus. And then watch, when I do the GoPro close to it, focus. The focus is amazing on this sucker. And it's 4K. I'm shooting this in 4K, which allows me to have a wide shot like this or cut into a close-up like this, or even extreme. That's too close, let's go back out. So it's very, very capable and it's easy to use. This particular camera right here is probably the most used vlogger camera in the books, actually. Here, let me pull it out of the bag. Yes, I have another one, just in case. So, I mean, you look at it, you see how easy it is, and the back screen flips out so you can look at look at yourself, sorry, not each other. Look at yourself and talk. Now, the only thing I will say about it is, it's not as steady as the GoPro is. So if you walk around with it, it gets a little bumpy. There's no battery in this or I would turn it on, but it gets a little bumpy. But remember what I said about the focus? And the other thing about it is you can zoom in. It's not a very far zoom, but it does have a zoom. And so that allows you to kind of get close on some things. So as far as just vlogging only and not jumping out of an airplane or swimming or getting wet with the GoPro or not needing a huge camera, this is the way to go if you're starting out. It's about $700, so not extremely cheap, but this camera is so solid, you'll be able to use it all the time. And you see the picture quality, look at, see? Making me look good is tough. So picture quality is great. Now, in addition to all this other stuff, I got a ton of GoPros in here. There's one, there's one, there's another one. These are my backup GoPros. And sometimes I use these, I'll just place them on the boat somewhere and just let them roll and use it for time lapse. I have various Gorilla tripods are great because you can place them around anything. Like, you just grab this. I'm gonna put the GoPro down for a second. And then boom. See how it's gripped around that? You put the camera right on top of there and you're good to go. Highly recommend these Gorilla grips, and that's what they're called. They're called Gorilla grips. All shapes and sizes. I have a big one over there and this is a medium one. Then here's a tiny one. Gorilla tripods, that's what you want. Okay, now the fun thing, the drone. First of all, before I get to the drone, this is my drone controller. This is a luxury. The Mavic Pros and the Mavics in general, you can operate the drone from your phone, from your iPhone. It has a little cradle you put over the top of your iPhone and you can manage it from there. And I did that for years and years and years, and it's fine. By the way, with this case, all of this stuff is transferable, right? So you can rip all of this out and you can make the compartments any size you want. You see how this compartment is much bigger than, let's say, those compartments. That's because with this foam stuff, with Velcro, you can make any compartment any size. That's another reason why I like the Think Tank. Now my favorite, here's my drone. This is a DJI Mavic Pro 2. Beautiful Hasselblad camera. It's just such a great and easy little drone to fly. As you've seen, I've had some trouble. Anybody who flies drones, it's kind of like anybody who owns a boat. Anybody who flies drones and say that they've never crashed one, they're lying to you. As a matter of fact, the first one I crashed, here, let me walk over to my bar, is right there. Yep, I crashed her against a mountain in Death Valley. Here's the clip. My friends had fun with that one. Yep. And the rest of the bag is just, you know, cables and cords. I just got back from Ireland, so I have adapters and all sorts of weird things like that. So it's just a ton of cables and what have you. Oh, by the way, I forgot about this. A microphone, a little fuzzy microphone that you would want to put on your big camera or your medium-sized camera. Here, let me put it on the big one real quick. There you go. So you've got the little fuzzy thing on top, and that's really good for when you're pointing it and recording. And I do use this to shoot myself sometimes. Here, let me set this down. I'll flip open the viewfinder, turn it towards me like that. I can see myself and I can talk, and the microphone's gonna pick me up very nicely. As far as the audio you're hearing right now, I have a Sony thing. I don't even remember the name of it. Here, let me pull it out of my pocket and I'll tell you what it is. A UTX B40 is what it is. Does that make sense? So what it is it's a wireless mic. Here's the wireless transmitter, right? The cord goes up to my microphone. And then over here is the receiver on top of this camera, which then plugs in right here to the camera. And now you hear me. Hear that? I have begun to extensively use my iPhone 14 because, wow, is it great with that wide angle lens. I use that, I wouldn't say a lot, a little bit. I'm beginning to use it more, and it fits in nicely with the complement of everything else I have. Now, the big secret to my videos is the editing. Yes, it's the shooting and the storytelling, and I'm telling a story as I shoot, but the editing is what it's all about, right? I see a lot of people on trips with GoPros and they're shooting like crazy, and I think to myself, well, what are they gonna do? Sit around and watch hours and hours and hours of vacation footage, right? You got to cut it into some cohesive thing that's 8 or 9 or 10 minutes, because even Aunt Josie, who loves you dearly, is not going to sit on your couch and watch 3 hours of your vacation footage. She's just not, right? So you got to be able to cut it down. And so I recommend iMovie. It's the easiest thing to do with Apple. If you're not an Apple person, then get Adobe Pro Premiere. It's a great tool. It's a great, as a matter of fact, Premiere is probably the closest thing to what we use in the business, which is called Avid. Personally, for YouTubes and for all what I'm doing, I use Final Cut Pro. And it's just simply because it's an Apple product. I'm used to it. It's quick. I like it. It's easy. And so I'm able to do that. I hope this has been helpful to you. Look, ask me a ton of questions. I love talking about this stuff. I can talk about it all day long, about some other techniques I may use, but that's basically what's in my camera bag. With every video you see, I'm shooting it with one of these 3 or 4 cameras, all of it. So hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel. Thanks.